This podcast is part of the No Phony Podcast Network, the home of independent awesomeness.
And he'd greet you in a bathrobe with nothing on underneath. How's that for a memory?
If they could have killed me, they would have.
Hey, Casey, I have something to admit.
What's up, Bill?
So, how many episodes are we in now?
This would be episode number 14, my friend.
Well, I'm going to be honest. The first 13 that we did, I assumed nobody was listening to us. I felt like we were just talking into outer space, just an open vacuum of nothingness. But it turns out we actually have listeners.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Not
Really?
like 10, not like 100. Like, we are close to 1,000 listeners, Casey.
Wow.
And I had no idea. I finally figured, like, we got that analytics tool that's actually showing us all the people that are listening to all our podcasts and all our YouTube stuff together. So shit, like, now I'm nervous doing these things. When I thought nobody was listening, it was no problem.
Well, that's pretty cool.
We got to get we got to get people involved. You know, we got to get the Facebook group moving. You know, I want to see what people are thinking out there, what they like, what they don't like, what they want us to talk about. Maybe they want you to, do the show with your shirt off. You know, you never know. They might have once.
Possibly.
Yeah.
We could do it outside. I could take my shirt off. I don't mind.
Do it outside.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to sit here in my nice, comfortable house with my shirt off. I got to go outside and get the air flowing, you know?
Oh, well, good point. All right, good point.
I'm not a fucking savage, Bill.
No.
I'll just sit around inside with my shirt off.
Every time people talk about you, they always say, that Casey, he is not a savage. No, I have something else to admit, too. I got busted talking behind your back.
What?
So we both go to the same place to get our hair cut. We go to Joel, the hair surgeon, right?
Yes. Red Horse.
He's awesome. Like, I love being able to just go in, and he just knows what to do, and he takes care of my hair, and he's just a great dude. So I know you know him. Oh, are you wearing a shirt?
Yeah.
No, he better be wearing our shirt today.
The horse. It's actually Red Horse Hair Studio, I think. I called it Hair Salon.
So I'm sitting in the chair, and I'm telling him a story about you. Now I'm going to tell everybody this story. So out of the blue, because you travel a lot for work.
Yeah.
Out of the blue, a few weeks ago, you sent me this picture, and it was a picture of you and an umbrella, and you had this look on your face of absolute fear. Like, I gotta put this picture up. It was just, you were terrified. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what's going on? Like, it was like a meteor was coming down, and this would be the picture that you take right before it smacks into you. And you're like, dude, where were you? You know the story. You know where I'm going with
That was in Michigan.
Michigan. You're like, Bill, I'm being attacked by seagulls. I'm like, what? So that face was you being attacked by seagulls, and you were scared for your life. And I'm telling Joel this story. I'm like, this fucking guy was scared of seagulls. Oh my God, can you believe him being afraid of seagulls? And damn it, if you didn't coincidentally have an appointment with Joel like 3 hours later.
He goes, yeah, Bill was just here talking shit on you about the seagulls attacking you. What the fuck? I told you that in confidentiality on our podcast 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I have loose lips. You can't tell me anything.
Didn't I tell that story on the podcast?
I can't remember, but
I think I might have.
Well, now it's not so bad that I shared it, because now it's public domain. Good. That makes me feel a little better, because when I heard that he was talking to you, I felt guilty.
Those seagulls were ready to kill me. If they could have killed me, they would have. Whatever they were protecting on that roof, they did not want me near.
Oh my God. Were they pecking at you?
They were diving at me and shitting at me.
We're shitting at you.
Yeah, and then I was swinging. Maybe I didn't tell the story. I don't remember, so I'll tell it again. So I inspect roofs for a living around the country, and I was in Michigan, and apparently, if seagulls have a nest somewhere on a roof, they do not want you around the nest. And there was about at least 100 seagulls up on this roof, but there was one that was very protective of whatever was on that roof. I never saw the nest, but I told Bill I could see that bird's face and eyes looking at me, and it wanted to kill me. It was dive bombing me, and then they spray shit at you, like directed at you as they're passing, like dropping bombs. And I'm pretty sure when I went down to my car, he was on the edge of the roof looking at me in my car. He spotted me in my car, him or her. They knew where I was.
You didn't know if it was a boy or a girl?
It was probably a mother bird.
This has to. I know they made, the birds. Hitchcock made that, but they got to make something called the gulls. And it's like your story. Like this could be a horror movie.
Oh, I have a little script written up for it.
It inspired you to write a story, a movie screen. Like
it would be a short. It would be actually my friend Ryan Vu wrote it, but it would be a short film. But it's pretty good. If we can figure out CGI, I think we might have something.
Just take like some stuffed animal birds and just throw them at you. It'd be a very short film. Casey walks out of a place, birds attack. He gets in his car, goes home. It's over.
I didn't finish. So I have like a little clipboard that I walk around with all my stuff in it. And as this bird was like diving at me, I was like, not really trying to hit it, but just like, swinging to get it away from me,
Yeah.
Well, when I went down to my car, I was reading about how to deter seagulls. And that's the one thing you're not supposed to do. Swing things at them. It just makes them more angry.
Well, we have learned. Now, do not.
Yeah. So what I had to do was I went and I bought 2 umbrellas at the store, and I crisscrossed them across my chest like this, so they were surrounding me completely. And I had to just walk the roof, and they shit on the umbrellas at least like 3 or 4 times. Kept diving at me.
That is the greatest story I've ever heard. I wish there was video of you just running from seagulls. I mean, you're a big, strong guy, and these seagulls really had you scared. I love it. We had a fun week, man. What else did we do? We went to a drive-in together. We had a date. Yeah.
The Mahoning Drive-In Theater up in Lehighton,
PA, and they did an Amazon Prime movie on this place. Is it one of the last single screen drive-in theaters? I think that's what they were saying when we were there.
Yep.
That was pretty cool. Like I've gone to a drive-in once a long time ago. Hardly remember it. I was a kid, but what a cool kind of vibe. We were just sitting there. We were watching Bruce Campbell, who came to town, right? And he was showing some movies. He was doing some Q&A. Did we meet him? I'm not sure we really got to meet him.
Yeah, I know. People always say, they post their photos. All right, so Bill and I got the VIP package on Friday night and last Friday night, and we had the meet and greet, but it's socially distanced. So we were 6 feet away from Bruce Campbell while we stood there and posed with him. And yeah, I mean, people always say I got to meet Bruce Campbell and they post that picture. Well, not really.
Yeah. Yeah.
We stood on the same, we stood with 6 feet away from him.
Yeah, pretty much. I know.
Gave him $100.
Yeah. $100 to be in your presence, sir. It's like they did one of those because there was a lot of people here doing this, and they were just cranking everyone through the photo op. And in between us was a window from the Evil Dead 2 house. So I thought that was kind of cool. So that's what separated us, a window.
Yeah.
And I remember I was actually nervous, right? Because I've met a million famous people, but I was like, I really, really like Bruce Campbell. I mean, he was on my bucket list of people I wanted to meet. We got to figure out how to get him on the show. I know he doesn't do a lot of stuff like this, but it's like I remember being nervous. I'm walking up to the spot, and he just looks at me and goes, "Be cool." And then they take the picture, and they're like, "All right, next, move them on, get them out of here, come on." I was like, oh, "That was it. That was it." It was a cool thing, man. Like, we were wide open. It was the first time I've actually done anything in these in this pandemic times where I was actually out with a crowd. But it was, everybody was wearing masks, and whether you believe you should or shouldn't, it was nice to see that people were doing it just to be peaceful with, everybody there. So, it felt like a safe event, but it's definitely a thing. I want to start going back to that more. They got Friday the 13th showings there. They got all sorts of great monster movie showings. One of the reasons I love Bruce Campbell so much, and I'm curious if you know about this, have you seen the old Sam Raimi? Sam Raimi did, all the Evil Deads, but he also did the first Spider-Man trilogy.
Never saw any of the Spider-Man movies, but I know that he did it. Actually, we went back the next night. A friend of mine went with me, and they were talking about a lot of the Sam Raimi stuff.
Yeah.
During the Q&A.
All right. Oh, those Q&As are painful. Poor Bruce. So this one kid, do you remember the one kid came up and he just went, what did he say? He said, Bruce of Earl. And Bruce is looking at him going, what? Bruce of Earl. It is great to meet you. He goes, what the fuck are you talking about? And we're all watching this go down. We're like, oh, this is the most uncomfortable thing. Some of those guys are crazy. Some good questions, but some of them were just like, what the fuck? You guys are nuts. What are you high on? I mean, great entertainment. I love it.
Last night during the Q&A, I feel like Bruce might have been drinking a little bit before he came out.
He probably needed to. After the night you and I were there, those just absolutely insane questions. But so Bruce Campbell was in every one of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies. He had a cameo in every movie. So in the first movie, part of the Spider-Man history is when he learns he has these powers, he wants to make some money, so he becomes a professional wrestler. He becomes a Casey. And he beats the bad guy pretty soundly. But the ring announcer is Bruce Campbell. And it's like, oh, that's a cute, cool little nod. Sam Raimi and Bruce are friends, so stick him in. In the next movie, I think he was a guy who was like the usher at a play or a musical, because Peter Parker wants to go in and see his girlfriend. His girlfriend is singing, and they do that bullshit where you can't let somebody in until there's an intermission. So he keeps trying to get in. The guy who's stopping him at the door is Bruce Campbell again. The third time, in the third movie, Peter Parker's ready to, give an engagement ring to his girlfriend, whose name I can't believe I'm blanking. It's not Gwen Stacy, it's the other one. Kirsten Dunst played her. Man, I'm getting old. Memory is just absolutely awful. Mary Jane is her name. So he's gonna propose to her. So the waiter at the restaurant that's gonna help give the ring is Bruce Campbell. So it's another appearance. And the rumor was that they were gonna make 4 Spider-Mans. And the fourth one, because the part 3 didn't work that well, it didn't make that much money, they trashed part 4. But the rumor, if it's true, was the villain in part 4 was going to be this guy named Mysterio. Mysterio was just in the last Spider-Man movie that was made by Marvel. And I guess they were going to unmask Mysterio, and they were going to find out it's Bruce Campbell. And it would have been like, yeah, I've been stalking you, Peter Parker. And it would have just been a really nice, kind of funny scene. We would have all laughed. But
actually, someone asked him that Saturday night at the question and answer, that exact same thing that you just said. He went through all that stuff, and Bruce was like, I don't know, man. He's like, if they would have cast me, sure, I would have done the role. But he's like, the movie got scrapped before anything ever amounted to anything,
Interesting.
But he mentioned something about Doctor Strange, the new Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah.
He said, did. Keep your eye out for Doctor Strange, because he might, I guess, be in that.
Right, because Sam Raimi is working on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing I found out at the Q&A on Saturday night is, the Delta, the car that he drives that they're driving in the first Evil Dead movie?
Yeah.
That car has been in every single Sam Raimi movie that he's ever made.
That's right.
Bruce was going through all the movies last night. The one he's like, I forget what the name of it is, but he's like, it's a Western. He's like, how do you put a car in a Western? He stripped it down and put the chassis under a covered wagon.
I didn't know about that.
And another movie, he was like, I can't remember the titles of these movies, but he's like, this is a fantasy movie. There's no cars in this. It's a fantasy movie. The Delta's on the wall. He's like, he took it apart and put the gear pieces, all this shit is on the wall of the guy's like laboratory.
That's the car that falls out of the sky and crashes on the ground in Army of Darkness.
Yep.
It's the same car I think Uncle Ben from Spider-Man drove right before he got killed. So yeah, I knew that was it all.
Bruce goes, something special must have happened in the backseat of that car that Sam cannot get rid of that car.
How about me? There was a little stand where people were buying things. I saw you looking at me, and I'm like, oh, they're selling little chunks of wood from the original Evil Dead 2 house for $20. Just a little chunk of wood. I'm like, Casey's watching me. I want this piece of wood, but I don't want to be an idiot. I don't want to get teased. So I kind of waited till you weren't looking, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take this piece of wood. And you came up and you're like, bought a piece of wood. And I was like, where'd you come from? Thought you were gone.
I told Dustin about that. I go, yo, you want to go check out the vendors up there? I was like, the guy's got authentic pieces of wood from the cabin of the Evil Dead 2. He's like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. Not me. I'm there buying the wood. Now I have this little chunk of wood. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with it. It's just going to sit here. One day I'll forget what it is.
No, I won't forget what it is. There's a tag on it that has a certificate of authenticity.
Oh, that means I can't take it out of the wrapper.
That's right. You can't play with that piece of wood.
Can't play with it. I should have bought two, right? One to play with and one to keep stored away.
That's what I always do. Why do you think I ordered 2 Evil Knievel's?
Because you're insane. That's why. That's truly why.
Test one of them.
Play with one of them. Test it. I can see you having little adventures. Go, Evil, go! Jump it! Woo! Do you like superhero movies? I'm going to totally jump here. Are you the kind of guy that'll sit and get excited about superhero movies?
I'm a DC guy, Bill.
Right. What about the movies, though? I know you like the characters.
Yeah, I like those movies. Yeah.
I know we were hanging out. We were talking about some of the stuff that DC has just put out. Just, I guess it was last week. Like all of a sudden, they got a new Batman trailer. They got a new Suicide Squad trailer. They got a new Suicide Squad video game trailer. A new Batman game trailer. They got a new Wonder Woman trailer. All of a sudden, DC exploded with all of this really cool, great content. And I'm sitting there because I'm a Marvel guy, and I'm going, can't wait to see what's coming up with Marvel. But shit, since this pandemic happened, they decided to shelve the Scarlet Black Widow movie. And then DC is just like, let me show you how this is done. Hold my beer. Here's a whole shitload of stuff to get people excited about. So it kind of got me thinking about, there's a reason I brought up superheroes. We'll get to that in a second. But it got me thinking about what kind of situation Disney might be in. Wanted to talk to you about it, right? So Disney went and bought Marvel. Then Disney bought Sony, right? Sony had all the X-Men and Deadpool. Disney also went and bought Star Wars. So what kind of situation do you think they're in? The last couple Star Wars movies did not make the fans happy. The person who was running, her name was Kathleen Kennedy. It's pretty clear that she wasn't interested in revisiting the original characters. She was trying to actually kind of suppress them a bit. Things are coming out now, and we're finding out that she had a whole different agenda. She wanted to really build up the new characters, but the fans wanted Luke Skywalker. They wanted, Han Solo, and they weren't happy with the way all that was treated. So there's the Solo movie. They made a Han Solo movie. They spent so much making that movie that I don't think they got their return back. People are saying it actually didn't make money. Can you imagine a Star Wars movie not making money? So Star Wars is in some trouble. They got to figure out how to fix this. Marvel is just has fallen off the map. And then, did you hear the news that his name is Chadwick Boseman,
yep,
who played Black Panther just died of cancer.
Yeah.
It's like, holy shit, who knew that was going to happen? And like, he's one of their new franchise characters. It's got to be hard running these kind of businesses and trying to manage all of these different properties and have them all make money. I mean, it is so much pressure to me.
Maybe they'll just have to reboot Star Wars, start all over.
The rumor is that they're bringing George Lucas in to sort of be like, hey, we should have never really cut you out, because he had a script for the new Star Wars movies, and evidently the Kathleen Kennedy character was like, nah, we're not going to use these. We're going to create something else, because she had a whole different vision than, you know, what George kind of thought the ending of the Skywalker trilogy should be. But I don't know. I hope they figure it out, because I need my fix of superhero movies, and maybe I'm gonna have to switch over to DC for a little while.
Come to the dark side, buddy.
Maybe I'll go to the dark side, because really my all-time favorite superhero movie is the 1980s Batman. So even though I'm a Marvel guy, absolutely the best movie. When that thing came out, the buzz around it was huge. Like, my family and I would hang out at the New Jersey shore. If you haven't gone to the New Jersey boardwalk, it's nothing but stores, and every store had some kind of Batman thing. The hype over that movie was just massive. And I remember going so many times to my local movie theater, standing in line and couldn't get in. Shit, come back another day. Couldn't get in. There was so much allure and just, you've seen it, right? I mean, were you as passionate as everybody else? Everybody was wearing a fucking Batman logo. I mean, they were everywhere.
I was 9 at the time, and I wasn't into I was into wrestling when I was a kid. I wasn't into Batman and superheroes and stuff. I was into WWF wrestling. So I didn't get into all this stuff until much later.
I think it created the first summer blockbuster. It's probably the movie that's responsible for, you know, the idea that every summer has to have giant multi-billion-dollar, you know, movies. It was a pretty big deal, that Batman movie.
That's crazy to me that you couldn't get in. Like, it was sold out like that every time you went.
Took several tries until I was finally able to get in. And I probably went to that movie like 5 times, because it stayed open for a long time because it was doing so well.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever gone to the movies to see a movie twice other than that Batman movie. Well, who'd you line up as our guest today?
So today, for our guest is someone from your all-time favorite Batman movie, the 1989 Batman. Robert Wuhl is our guest today.
He had a pretty good part in that movie. He wasn't, you know, just a background person. He actually had a key role. So I'm really interested.
That was a new character to the Batman series, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. Yeah. So Robert Wuhl's been in everything from Batman '89 to Arliss, Bull Durham. Movie that I really liked him in was a movie that I liked as a kid, and I haven't been able to find it. Now with all the technology and everything that there is now, I'm sure I'll be able to find it. But it was called The Hollywood Knights. Do you remember seeing that movie ever? With Fran Drescher, Robert Wuhl, Tony Danza was in it.
How could I have missed a Tony Danza movie?
Michelle Pfeiffer. Dude, it was a great movie. Nobody has ever heard of it. It used to be on like HBO late at night. I loved it as a kid. I used to like try and find it on HBO. I used to, before like all the internet and stuff, you know, try to just have to wait for it to come on HBO late at night, you know?
Right. I've seen him. He pops up everywhere. Like back in the day, he was popping up everywhere. I saw him in a Madonna video.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's just in things.
Yeah.
So he's another one of those kind of actors that everyone's going to see and remember. He's got a very memorable face, and he's always had some pretty good, you know, roles. Did you know he did stand-up comedy? That's how he got started.
Yeah, I did. I did a little research, and that's one of the things I want to ask him about is his stand-up comedy career. Yeah, Bill. So you said about you were surprised that we had listeners, right?
Yeah.
So actually, we're going to start something new, I think, with this episode. Since we do have so many listeners, we're going to take some listener questions for our guest.
Wait a minute. So did you already ask our listeners for questions?
I did.
And you got some?
I got some.
You really do have listeners. I can't believe it. I'm thrilled, but what the fuck? Now we've got so much more pressure to be funny Like when I thought nobody was listening, it was easy. I didn't have to worry about anything.
Just pretend no one's listening.
I'm nervous now.
You'll be fine. Robert's here in the waiting room. So let's welcome Robert Wuhl. How are you, man?
Fine, thanks. Yourself?
Very good. Got the
Doing
Mets
good.
on there behind you?
I think they're the Mets and the Yankees, yes. I got a bunch of games usually on behind me.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us. We just started talking about your entire career before we actually connected with you. So would love to run through some questions with you if you don't mind.
Of course, go ahead. Of course.
So, Robert, we were talking. You got started as a stand-up comic.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
How did why did you decide to become a stand-up comic, or how did that come about?
It was a way to show. I wanted to be a filmmaker and storyteller always, and I using the career path of guys like Mel Brooks and Woody Allen and Paul Mazursky and Mike Nichols. They all started as stand-up comics. So I thought this was a good vehicle because I could write my own act. I didn't have to wait till somebody cast me. I could write an act and have my work be seen. So I thought that was a really good vehicle for that.
Nice. So then I read also that you were one of Rodney Dangerfield's writers. Is that true?
My first job, it's like within 2 days of each other, my first jobs were writing for Stiller and Mira. I wrote a little sketch, one sketch for them, and then I started writing jokes for Rodney. Yeah.
So how does that work? So it's for Rodney, it was actually just the stage work that he would do. It wasn't a television show or anything like that.
No, absolutely. Rodney was a favorite comic of mine. In college, during the 70s, we really liked Rodney. So I knocked on his dressing room door and tried out some jokes on him. And he would say, and he'd greet you in a bathrobe with nothing on underneath, and I'd like to try some jokes. And I go, okay, I'm all right now, but last week I was in rough shape. A guy comes up to me at the airport. He says, loan me $5 till payday. I say, when's payday? He says, I don't know. You got the job. And he would say, okay, the jokes are good, but don't do me. So we started a relationship. And that was and a couple of within about, I would say within a month or two, he did one or two of my jokes on The Tonight Show, which was very cool.
So I've actually heard that he meets people in a robe with nothing on underneath.
Yeah,
You just said that.
Absolutely true.
But he just likes wearing robes, or he just likes putting everybody a little bit off guard?
Yeah, he was an exhibitionist, yeah.
Was he? Do you get paid? I hope this isn't too personal, but I've always been curious the way that it works. I mean, do you get paid per joke? Do you get paid sort of, are you on his payroll? And he just keeps saying, okay, I expect you to deliver.
Well, the key was to get, if you get paid per joke because you got $1 million a joke. That's the old, if I could just sell one. No, you got, back then it was like $50 a joke or $60, which was actually pretty good pay for most of the comics back then.
So you just be writing and writing.
By the way, the jokes had to work. They had to work. If they didn't, or work well enough where he could rewrite them or do something with them, but they had to work.
So if they were a dud, he wouldn't pay you?
No.
Wow.
That's the way it was. I mean, it was. Why would I pay somebody for shitty jokes? Why am I paying you for jokes that suck, that don't work? I don't know what kind of. I imagine it was different for people in your relationship, but no, you got paid by the joke generally.
Yeah, interesting. Did you use writers, or did you write your own stuff when you were doing stand-up?
I wrote all of my own stuff, with a couple of exceptions. If somebody would tweak something of mine or say something, very, very, very rare. I could probably count it on a hand or two hands, something like that. Or my friend of mine would say something who's very funny, would say something, and I would turn it into a joke or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like your style too. It was it's observational, but it's also like kind of showing absurdity within some of the things that we see every day. So it was smart humor that you sort of, I guess that was your brand.
I guess I have no idea what my brand was. I guess I know it wasn't stupid, although it could be silly. Silly's not the same as stupid. Silly is hardly the same as stupid.
I like stupid jokes and I like silly jokes. So I'm trying to think of what the differences are.
Stupid is, how can I explain it? It does. It's, you know, comedy's so subjective. What's a stupid joke?
It really is like an art form. There's no doubt in my mind that comedy is an art form.
Oh, can I quote you on that?
Sure. You can definitely have that quote.
Okay, thank you. Comedy is an art form. Okay, I'll quote you on that. Thank you. I think all the comedians and comedy writers that have been doing it for hundreds of years will appreciate that.
Good. And I mean, who are the comedians now that you are really?
The same ones for the most part. I'm not that hip to all the comics. Chappelle for sure, Chris Rock for sure, Sebastian, whatever his last name, Monagelso, whatever. He's very good. Bill Burr's very good. Sarah's very good.
Is that Sarah Silverman? Yeah.
Yeah. I like Kathy. I think Griffin's a great storyteller. A great storyteller. She can tell a story. Well, Bill Maher's a great guy. Well, Bill's different. Bill's in a different place for me. Is a great, for me, Bill's just terrific. He's got balls of steel. So, I don't know. But since it's the same guys, it's the same. It's nothing. You know, how many great comics do you get during a generation? 2, 3, 4? I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's some young people that I'm not aware of, to be real honest with you, who are doing terrific stuff. They have to be. Who else I'm very impressed with? I'm sure there's others. I'm sorry.
No, I find myself usually when I'm listening to stand-up comedy, I'm always going back to Howie Mandel, Robin Williams. You know, I'm certainly aware of your stuff as well. Like, to me, even though it's older stuff, it doesn't lose its magic. I mean, it doesn't get dated. A lot of this stuff is still as funny as it was when it first came out.
Well, that's very kind of you to say on my behalf. The interesting thing is that, you know, comedy, there is topical. Things are topical for the most part. I mean, but there are certain things that are not. I'll give you an example of something that's topical, but it'll give you an appreciation of longevity. I think I did it in 1982. I did a routine about being from New Jersey. About New Jersey, someone in New Jersey had put a bill before the state assembly.
I know this bit.
Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run, the state anthem of New Jersey. Yeah. I did this bit on the piano because I can play a little piano, and I broke down the song and how absurd this song was. And it was a huge hit. I did that in 1982 because Springsteen has stayed so relevant. I could do that routine today, and it's a topical routine, basically. And this is almost 40 years later. I couldn't do a routine about My Sharona. I couldn't, which was the same year, or Who Could It Be Now? You know, it's like I couldn't do that. But Springsteen, because he has stayed so relevant, I could still do that routine.
Yeah, yeah. I remember another one. So you're from New Jersey. We're right in Pennsylvania. And you were going to a show with a special guest, and you were so excited to see the special guest was in New Jersey. Do you remember this bit?
Yoko Ono.
It was Yoko Ono, and everyone was disappointed.
Yeah, Yoko Ono. That's a true story. That's true. It was at the old Giant Stadium, and I forgot what the charity was for, but it was Yoko Ono. You had to see a crowd. You talking about taking the air out of the balloon. You were great. You were like, that was the first time I did the line. And when she started singing, if it was a fight, they would have stopped it. That was, but yeah, it's amazing because people remind me of jokes that I did that I totally forgot about. I mean, as far as people come up and quote me my jokes. I say, boy, that was a pretty good joke. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, forget about that stuff. But it's nice to hear, and I thank you for appreciating it. That was kind of nice.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, it's great stuff. So doing a little research on you, saw that you were on some game shows. I guess that's before, fame really took off for you.
The first game show I was on was the $10,000 Pyramid, but that was as a contestant when I first got out of college. And I actually won, so it gave me a little nest egg. At least I had $10,000 to start with. But then as a talent, when you went out to California, I did a couple of times on the dating game because the dating game was a paying gig. It was a SAG gig or an after gig. And so a lot of comics, a lot of people were on the dating game. I mean, Steve Martin was on,
for sure.
Tom Selleck, Andy Kaufman, Paul Rubens, I think Sally Field was, she had a big star by then. But I mean, there's a lot of people because it was a paying gig. It paid your rent for the month. I mean, that was, if you got $1,000 to go on or $800, that was your rent for the month to go on the dating game. And they loved having comics because they were entertaining. They were self-contained and they knew. So I went on always. I never went on as Robert Wuhl. I went on as Lawrence Talbot, the Wolfman. I went on as, I forgot a couple of other pseudonyms or whatever it was. And I went on as all different people, but I did go on a number of times.
Yeah. We were talking before you came on. We were talking as a kid from the 80s and watching tons of stuff in the 80s and the 90s. I remember seeing your face all the time. You just kept coming up. And I remember watching a Madonna video. Oh, wow, there's Robert Wuhl. So that's really cool that you've actually been in so many different things.
The Madonna video was very helpful. It was a time in my career where not much was going on. And they wanted someone to improvise this little bit of, they had a scene with Keith Carradine, who was playing a Howard Hughes type movie, owner, and they wanted to have somebody improvise with him on, as they watched the film of Madonna, who could not have been hotter at that time. I mean, that was a zenith. I mean, she was Material Girl became a great video and also and Mary Lambert, the director, saw me at the Improv and asked me if I wanted to do it. And when they told me what it was, I pretty much ripped off. I had seen the Cotton Club movie. I guess I don't know how much earlier than that, but there was a scene in the Cotton Club where there was a Hollywood yes man talking to a studio head. So I pretty much just parodied everything. It was just a yes man. Yes, same way there wasn't Bull Durham. Pretty much, he was a yes man. That's the way I saw it. So that's how that happened. Yeah.
What was the biggest movie? Is it safe to say was it Batman? Is that the one that?
How many movies bigger than Batman? As far as my career, well, Batman's huge. But there was 3 in a row. So in short time, it was Good Morning Vietnam, Bull Durham, and Batman. So that was a real kick in the ass, of course. That really, and then pretty much that a few years later segues in. I had a directed movie and a couple of other gigs, and that segues into Arliss on HBO.
Right.
So, so there was that, yeah.
Was Arliss the first actual series on HBO? I don't remember them having series.
No. There was a lot of series before. There was quite a few. There was one called First and 10 that was on. It was actually OJ and Delta Burke. That was on in the late 70s, early 80s. There was Larry Sanders. There was what was the one? Dream On was another series they had. They had other series for sure.
Yeah, you did that show for how many years? I think you did 5 years.
7 seasons.
7. Do you still get recognized for Arliss?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you get recognized for the most? The dating game.
Arliss is a TV series, so you're reaching a lot of people. There wasn't a network TV series. Remember, it was cable. Batman's probably number 2, and number 3 would be the first movie I did, a cult film called The Hollywood Knights.
Casey was just so I hadn't seen that. Casey was telling me about it. Tony Danza. Who else was in that?
Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to watch that one.
Stuart Pankin, a lot of people. Gaylord Sartain, a lot of talent. Lee French, a lot of talent. A lot of young
I love
talent.
that movie.
It's a huge cult film. It's an enormous cult film. So that would say those 3 would be there, and then I would say next would be Bull Durham.
Yeah, Batman was. I was at that age where when Batman came out, it changed everything for this little teenage kid. Now, and I said in the opener, I said it's the first movie I can think of that was a summer blockbuster. Did you think it was going to be that big and that iconic?
Well, there was summer blockbusters before that. I mean, again, you're younger. I mean, there was this little movie called Jaws that was pretty big.
Oh yeah.
It was Star Wars before that, which was pretty big. So there was a lot of different. Everything is generational. So I understand that. Everything. I think 99% of most things are generational. It just is. I thought it had a chance to be as big as it was. I thought it had a chance to be. It had a chance because it was unique, and I trusted Tim Burton. Yeah, it had a chance. Everything was going for it, So what's interesting now is the one thing the studios were always worried about how dark it was going to be, because I was not a fan of the Batman TV series at all. I hated it. Being a Batman fan, I hated the TV series. It was too campy. I'm not a huge fan of camp. And it was too jokey. And so I knew Tim wanted to make it darker, which was a positive, big positive. And the original script was phenomenal. It was a great script. Goober and Peters weren't quite as on board with that, by the way. When I once, they hired the right guy with Tim Burton, because when I went, and he hired Michael Keaton, and people forget, if you're only of a certain age, thank God there was not social media back then, because Michael Keaton would have never withstood the outrage there was over his hiring at Batman. People forget, they were pissed off. I mean, the fanboys hated the idea of Michael Keaton. Mr. Mom is Batman, so and so. And it's like, and I knew Michael because he was a stand-up comic with me. And I knew how good an actor he was and how dark Michael could be, and how great he might be my favorite actor working today. But that no way with social media could he have withstood that. The studio would have had a buckle. But interesting, Goober and Peters, actually, I once asked them, who would you have cast if it wasn't for Michael Keaton? And John Peters' idea was Steve Martin. So this gives you an idea of what direction he wanted to go in. So Batman was, that was wonderful. It's a great time. I got to be in London for all that time. That's one of the great memories of my life.
Yeah. Well, what was the set like? What kind of production?
Going to. Now we were shooting at Pinewood Studios, which is the home of the James Bond movies. That's the James Bond Studios, and it's about an hour outside of London with traffic. But you'd walk in and you saw Gotham City, and what Tim Burton and the late great production designer, whose name Anton Furst, who committed suicide shortly thereafter, had created. And it was phenomenal to go to that. It was just so cool to go to that set. I mean, it was just the look. I mean, it was something special. I mean, that really was. I mean, that first, now I'm only in the first Batman, but it's my opinion. This is strictly my opinion, and I'm going to talk about each incarnation of Batman separately. The first incarnation I'll take with the Tim Burton and the Joel Schumacher films. I'll call that one incarnation. And the second incarnation, of course, is the Dark Knight stuff. With the first incarnation, I think there's 4 or 5 movies. 4, 5, I don't know. If you took every hour from the first hour to the last hour and put them end to end to end again, each hour gets progressively worse. They get progressively, the first hour of first Batman is phenomenal. Second Batman's pretty damn good. The next one, Batman Return, first hour's good, second hour's starting to wane. And then comes Joel Schumacher, may he rest in peace, but his sensibilities were just totally wrong. When you see the Joel Schumacher films, that's the direction Goober and Peters wanted to go. That's the direction, believe me. And then the second incarnation is totally different. It's a totally different generation. So you have to judge each of them. It's like judging eras of ball players. You can't. They're different. They're very different.
Yeah. So I heard a rumor that they're actually talking to Michael Keaton about coming back and playing that character in that that sort of universe, playing that character again. And I know that you actually had a sort of return as well. I didn't follow.
One scene, one shot, one scene. I enjoyed doing it. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, so for people who don't know, so they did on the I don't even know the channel. I don't watch that show.
It's a CW. It's called Crisis.
Crisis on Infinite Earths or something. Yeah.
See, now I have to tell you, I love going to these card shows and I love going to these Comic Cons. I'm not a big sci-fi fantasy guy at all. I mean, I've seen two, maybe 3 Star Wars. I haven't seen Avatar. I don't see any of these. I haven't seen any Justice League. It's just not my genre at all. With rare exceptions, I should say. But I'm amazed just by the whole fanboy thing. But they're great. I love talking with the people and everything. I just don't go see the movies. I love the people. I just don't go see the movies.
What movies are you watching then these days? What really gets you kind of excited?
The Prophet. I like watching The Prophet on CNBC. I like watching Shark Tank. Baseball. I've always loved baseball. As far as movies and stuff like that, I can't think of any. See, here's the problem with movies to me. And this is just the nature of society and the nature, is that the movies as we know them, like I've known them, have totally changed because the marketplace has totally changed. Movies now are made for a demographic that is 12 to 24. And by doing that, I mean, because that's your repeat business, it's a very non-discerning audience. It's a very young audience. So there's not going to be any kind of gray area. There's not going to be any kind of ambiguity. They don't understand, just by nature of the age. It has nothing to do with how smart they are. Obviously, they should be smarter than us. But it's not. It's an age where there's no ambiguity. Irony doesn't exist in their world. Satire doesn't exist in their world for the most part. They're 12 to 24. And they make it. And the amazing thing about everybody playing to that demographic, which everybody does, is that that demographic has no money unless adults give it to them. What 12 to 24 kids got money? Nobody, unless adults give it to them.
Yeah.
Which is why you're seeing better stuff on TV, as far as my opinion. I mean, at least you're seeing adult stuff on TV. Although now that's changing because of the pandemic. You don't. Movies are very, very. I mean, I see a couple that I enjoy a year, but I used to see everything that came out. The movies were my life. Not so much anymore. Yeah, some smaller movies. None. I can't. I'm trying to think of the last big studio movie. I'm sure there's one that I'm missing that I went and saw in a theater that I really, went gaga for.
Yeah. Well, I can't.
I'm older. I'm not the demographic you're looking for. I get that.
Well, you have the money. You have money.
Yeah, but I'm not the demographic that they're looking for.
Yeah.
I think it's 12 to 24.
Well, yeah, and that totally makes sense. They don't have the disposable income. Sure.
No, unless the parents give it to them.
Right. Well, I couldn't help but notice that. Is that the Emmy that you won behind you?
Yes.
That's awesome. So you actually won an Emmy. If I got this right, you won an Emmy for writing the Oscars.
Two of them.
Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of. I should have moved that over. It's kind of tacky to show. Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Well, I'm kind of creepy. I'm here scanning your house. I don't mean to be a voyeur.
Well, Billy Crystal's responsible for that.
What do you mean? He's responsible?
Yeah, he hosted. Yeah. I was working with him, and he's responsible for the Emmys.
Oh, but your writing contributed to the great show.
Yeah, I'm right. Yeah, no doubt. But he's responsible. I mean, totally responsible. Yeah, I wrote jokes for him. Yeah, we had a great time. It was great.
Yeah, how come you didn't keep on going? You did. Was it one and done or 2 years?
No, I did 2, and then Billy, and then I started doing Arliss, and I was unavailable. I was doing Arli Kelly thereafter. Because what do we do? It had to be in like 94, 95. Yeah, 96, I'm doing Arliss right around there. Yeah.
Nice.
So I didn't continue. I couldn't continue. I was working on the other show.
So speaking of television shows like Arliss, we have a couple last questions for you. And they're questions from fans of ours, from listeners of ours. And one of the first one is Aaron Meyer wants to know, do you prefer doing television shows or movies?
It depends on what capacity. I mean, obviously, well, movies can be, big studio movies is pretty great because the money's really good. TV, depends. What capacity am I doing it? The work is the same pretty much. It depends. I mean, I love doing Arliss because I controlled everything of it. But those 3 movies I mentioned, I loved every second of them. It's just, everybody likes to see themselves on a big screen, but it's not. It's what is the character? What the thing about movies is, it's fun and people like to get caught up in them and everything. It's understandable. It depends on the project. I mean, nothing was, those movies I mentioned in Arliss. I mean, those are 3 things I 4 things I was very fortunate to do, and I loved every moment of it.
Nice. All right, so Jason Watts would like to know, what can you tell us about your time on Good Morning Vietnam? That's his favorite movie.
Oh, great. Well, I had a great time, Jason. Thank you for asking. I got to go to Thailand for 6 weeks. Now, Robin and I were friendly beforehand because Robin was a comic. And Robin and I started pretty much at the same time in the comedy clubs. So we knew each other pretty well. So it was great. And I got to make great friends, especially the late, great, very great Bruno Kirby. And it was great fun. And Barry Levinson, because I had known Barry. Barry had auditioned me about 4 times for 4 or 5 different projects. Everything from Diner to Tin Men to he had another project, and I kept coming up short. But when it came time for this one, he was apart from me. So that was great, and it was great fun. It was hot. It was hot. Thailand is hot. What I remember most there, besides the camaraderie there, was the first day I arrived at the hotel where everybody was staying. There was a girl who was sunbathing by the pool topless. So I naturally went and, laid down near her, very close to her. and I remember not being cognizant that tropical sun is not the same as the sun in New Jersey or California. And I wound up with 1st-degree burns over every part of my body. And I mean, it was painful. I could not move. I mean, it was burned head to toe. And when I had to go for wardrobe fittings, I could still feel, the pain of putting on the uniforms and the costumes. And that didn't go away for a couple of weeks. How's that for a memory?
Can we see that in the movie? So when we watch the movie, are you going to be sunburned?
No, I doubt that. I doubt that.
Wow.
But that's what that's when you ask me about memory. See, that's the difference. That's something that I will remember about that. And I remember eating a lot of pad thai. I ate a lot of pad thai. It was fun because of the people around, the camaraderie of all the guys, because it was all guys pretty much. And it was a really good shoot.
So you had a hotel nearby. Did they always cart you back and forth to the hotel, or did they try to create a camp that the performers could be comfortable in? Because it's a hot spot.
No, of course you're in hotels. You're in hotels, and then you take a van to the shooting. I mean, that's the way.
Yeah. And then I guess there's trailers all around the where you're shooting. Yeah, makes sense.
So you said that was filmed in Thailand, right?
Mm-hmm.
I always wondered, does Thailand have their own, like, how does that work? Do studios have to take all of their stuff there, like their production equipment there, or does Thailand already have everything
And you rent it?
No, they bring, I'm sure they bring 90% of it there.
Oh, wow.
They probably use some Thai extras. No, of course they bring all this stuff.
Okay.
I mean, maybe now they've got it. It depends how much shooting is there. I mean, no, because I'm trying to remember if we had any Thai members on the crew. Nothing's jumping out at me, so no. We had a British crew for that movie. That was fun. I worked with British crews twice. That and Batman. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so Jason Rollins would like to know, what was it like working with Tommy Lee Jones on the movie Cobb?
Well, I love Cobb. Tommy Lee is a force of nature. Tommy Lee is the strongest human being I've ever met. He once grabbed my arm, my forearm. I remember him grabbing it for a scene where he grabbed my arm, and the next day it was like this huge black spot. It was like, I never saw anything like it. Well, he's a rancher and a polo player, so you know how strong he is. And we had a great time together. I mean, it was just the two of us in 90% of the movie. So, and we got along, we got along pretty damn well. And we had a good time. We had a good time together. I love Cobb. Cobb's a very dark movie about a very dark human being. It's not for everybody's taste. It bombed. Boy, did it bomb at the box office. It was a huge turkey. Really bad loss. But what was interesting, if you're familiar with the movie, is it's about that. It's about separating the personal from the professional, in that somebody can be the best in the world at what they do. They can change, but they can still be a real asshole. It's like, don't think that people who are good at what they do makes them a good person. That's not the way the world works. I mean, Henry Ford obviously was a great industrialist, but he was a scumbag on the highest order. So Charles Lindbergh, was America's hero, but he was a big-time Nazi. So you have to separate the personal from the professional. So, story, fast forward, I'm playing in a celebrity golf tournament, the Lexus Golf Challenge, Celebrity Golf Challenge, maybe about 8 years later, 7-8 years later. And I'm in a foursome with Sean Connery. And Connery's, walking down the fairway with me, and, and he turns to me and goes, "You were in that movie Cobb, weren't you?" And I said, "Yes, I was." He goes, "I like that movie." And he said, "I like that movie a lot. And I'll tell you why it didn't do well." I go, "Why?" He says, "Because it talked about what it takes to be great. And Americans don't want to see what it takes to be great." And I said, "Well, that's interesting. However, Sean, I got to tell you, it bombed in the UK too." So, movie stars, you tend to like to pop the bubble of their self-importance, because movie stars do have self-importance.
How do you get in a golf foursome with Sean Connery?
You get invited by NBC to play in a celebrity golf challenge. I'll tell you who was in the tournament. It's got the poster right here. It was Jack Nicklaus, Glenn Fry, Dick Stockton, Kevin Costner, can't make out the Lee Trevino, who else? Bob Murphy, Tom Weisskopf, Sean Connery, Arnold Palmer, Chichi Rodriguez, Jerry, somebody, I can't make that name out. It's funny, you can make out the golfer's name. None of the celebrities can make out. Richard Dreyfuss played. Joe Pesci played, I remember. It was great. It was great. It was an NBC show. It was great fun. I loved every second of it. Very fortunate.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, no, it was quite remarkable. It was one of those great moments. You look back and you're very fortunate for all the the moments that you've had. That's one of them for sure. You got put up at the La Quinta in Palm Springs, these great villas, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful. Clint Eastwood played. That was great fun.
Nice. All right, so our final question is from James Aaron Thomas. Do you have a favorite character that you've played out of all the things that you've been in? What's your favorite?
They're different. The best performance I think I ever gave was in a movie called Mistress. That was directed by Barry Primus, who was a terrific actor's director, and he got me to do stuff I didn't do. I loved everything, but if one character would have to be Arliss, because I got to do it. We did 70 episodes, 80 episodes, 70, 80 episodes, and I got to play a character who was nuanced, and I got to tell many stories about him, and it's stories about domestic and I'll do all the social issue stories. That in fact it holds up. They just had a whole thing of it the other day, and boy, the stories hold up. I mean, because it's all domestic abuse, steroid abuse, bisexual athletes, gay athletes, unwanted pregnancies, Alzheimer's. I mean, all these stories held up. Indian mascots, all the stories we did held up really well today. They really did. I was very proud of that. So that would be it. But that was a TV series, and also I was the creator, and I was a 600-pound gorilla in that one. So. But boy, I mean, Bull Durham, the character was wonderful. I enjoyed Good Morning Vietnam, loved Alexander Knox and Batman. But you remember, I did them once. So the other ones I got to do 80 times.
Sure.
So I did enjoy that a lot. But they're all very special to me.
Well, Robert, thank you very much for taking the time. We really appreciate it. You're terrific.
How did your show start, by the way? I usually ask about how your show started. How did this all become?
Honestly, we're kids from the 80s, from the 90s, and we talked about, wouldn't it be fun to sort of get behind the scenes, start to learn a little bit more about the stuff that we love about, just sort of see the other side of it.
Where are you guys from?
We're in Reading, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So not too far from where you live. I don't know if you live there now, but where you grew up in Union.
Now, Reading is, how far from Philly is that?
40 minutes on the highway with no traffic.
Okay. I did some research. I did a show one time. I was doing research about Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, we're close to that.
Yeah. And the difference is, and because I read a book called The Chocolate Wars, and the differences between Hershey and Mars. And I was fascinated about it. Hershey apparently was everything that you could say about somebody who was good. I mean, most beloved guy, left all the money to Hershey, left all the stock and everything. and Mars is 100% the other way around. I mean,
Oh wow.
Mars is supposed to be a major dick, and but it was interesting. It was a good, it was just interesting. The chocolate wars, I like that.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, he has a home there for kids. I think a school.
Always had. They left all the money there to the orphanage in the town. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a school there now and everything that he put together.
Yeah, Hershey's was really terrific. They didn't have their own kids, and they left all the money to orphanages and everything else.
If you're ever in that area, the Hershey Hotel is beautiful.
Yeah, I would love that. I'd love that. Of course, right now I'm not going anywhere in any hotels.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, thank you guys. I had a great time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Robert. So before we wrap up, is there anything that you're working on or?
Not really, because there's nothing going on right now. There's a couple things I'm writing by myself and everything, but there's not much going on really. So, I know. I just did an American Dad episode. I've done that a couple of times, and I like doing American Dad. I play myself.
Nice.
So I should get that one right. But yeah, I enjoyed that. But that's about it. There's not much going on. Voiceover work is there, but that's about it.
Sure. You can do all that voiceover stuff from home, I guess, right?
I can some of it, but actually I've been going into it. We did record it from home, but I think I'm going to have to go into a studio because the quality isn't near as good for them.
Sure. Well, that's great, man. How about social media? Anywhere anybody can find you? Do you have a website? Do you do Cameo or anything like that?
I am on Cameo. I enjoy that. I enjoy that as long as they don't ask me to read a script. And, you go, oh, do this as Arliss and say that. I'm not going to do that. Or give a shout, or about birthday greetings and get well stuff that's fine. Ask me questions, but when they start telling me about what to say and in character and or giving a plug for a business, which a lot of them do. They'll say, hey, this, and so I go, that's a commercial. It's like, you want to pay for doing a commercial, okay, but it's not going to be on Cameo. But otherwise, I do enjoy the cameos. I enjoy making people happy. But I am Cameo, Facebook, Twitter. But between you and me, I got somebody else doing the Twitter. But that's so I'm out there as far as that goes.
Great. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to do this, man. This was a lot of fun.
My pleasure. All the best to you guys. Stay safe. Wash your hands.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.